Heartfelt greetings from Bharat Dental Show. As the organizing chairperson, I think you've seen me in the last 4 months, myself as the organizing chairperson and Dr. Manali as the organizing secretary of this women-driven Congress, a unique initiative which has taken its baby steps and it's gaining momentum. March, January, February, March, April, and now we are at May. We finished our first quarter and May has the scorching heat. But sitting in the comfort of your homes, we have curated these webinars themed Roots and Wings, celebrating global Indian voices abroad. We went through a series of webinars. 2 webinars are done, 2 more yet to go. And this is specially a synergy of podcasts which we have also handpicked all those women who have been rooted in India but gone abroad, established themselves, but etched in our memory. So we begin with Dr. Natasha, who has been so dear to my heart. And before I tell you what Natasha is to me, I will tell Dr. Manali Mehta what is the basic sentiment behind this Synergy podcast.
Thank you, Salony. Welcome to the podcast Synergy of Roots and Wings on behalf of Bharat Dental Show. This podcast, we're going to be exploring how to stay grounded in our origins, which is giving us the strength to fly forward towards our future. I, Dr. Manali, as the organizing secretary, and Dr. Salony as the organizing chairperson, are going to be your moderators for the podcast. Every generation wrestles with the same tension. How do we honor where we come from? That is our culture, family, values, that's the roots, while still having the courage to innovate, take risks, and grow into something new, our wings. Today, we unpack that synergy into a podcast because roots without wings can keep us stuck, but wings without roots can leave us lost. I would now request Dr. Salony to please introduce our speaker for the day, Dr. Natasha Desai from Australia.
So the formal introduction of Natasha is going to be from Natasha herself. But what I have known as Natasha is that she has been my student in my early academic career. Somebody who was, I would say very bold. She's still very bold and beautiful. And if I think of one word that would describe Natasha, she is an intellect with fashionista, with a blend of grace and so much of love. That's what I have known Natasha as. Well, 2011 was the time when she finished her graduation. And then after that, Natasha was gone. She was in touch on and off. And I know what she was doing. However, when we thought of this Synergy podcast, and when we thought of celebrating global Indian voices, roots and wings, and when we're thinking of different types of, what would be our different themes, the first name that flashed in my mind and when I spoke to Manali was Natasha. I said, Natasha is in Australia, and I think it was midnight at that time because she sleeps early. And I woke her up and I said, hey, Natasha. And she's like, ma'am, what are you doing? I said, look, there is a journey that we have become and we need to be on board. So that's what is Natasha to me, a fashionista, a diva in herself, and who has established her own identity abroad. So over to you, Natasha, to formally introduce yourself of who is Dr. Natasha Desai.
Hello. So please introduce yourself as with your name, your country of residence, and your professional role, Natasha.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, ma'am. Salony, ma'am, I am incredibly privileged to be a part of Bharat Dental Show and this Women's Driven Congress. It's incredibly unique. And I think when you made that call to me in the middle of the night, it was a no-brainer for me. There was nothing for me to decide. It was a yes from the get-go. So I'm incredibly privileged to be here. And of course, thank you so much, Dr. Manali Mehta, to help us and moderate and facilitate this. And you've been incredibly supportive for me to get here. And I I don't usually get nervous. I don't get nervous at all, actually. But for some reason, I was so nervous because this is so meaningful and this is so close to my heart. So I think that's why probably I got a bit nervous. Well, look, I live in Australia, Sydney. I work as a director of patient safety and quality within New South Wales Health, which is a state level organization, and I'm a hospital executive. What I did was, of course, I graduated from dentistry back in Bombay from the Maharashtra University of Health Services, Health Sciences, back in 2011, and I pursued a double master's. So I did a master's in public health, and I also did a master's in health management, and I also did a precursor to MBA with Harvard Business School. So there's a few things I did over there, and there's always some credentials that I did that I pursued, which I thought was quite relevant. But I think we might unpack that a little bit in the future, a little bit as we go in this conversation. So that is me at the moment. But thank you for reaching out.
Great. So, Natasha, you've done your undergraduate training from here. So did this training prepare you to go abroad? I mean, just to share that you've done your BDS here, and then you obviously spoke about your additional qualifications, but how did this Indian training help you abroad?
Ma'am, I think that is an incredibly interesting and important question. I think we really undermine and undervalue what we're learning here in India, learning there in India, and I still feel like I'm in Bombay, so I'm going to say here. So in India, in so many ways, I've learned some things. But look, I had the privilege of learning from renowned dental professionals, including you, ma'am, including you at Tena Dental College, and I think I think everyone around me was already challenging the boundaries and the norms at the time. And dentistry, without making it too corny, is dentistry is an of knowledge and of creativity. And I think it's really important that as you go in your professional career, you develop those skills as you function better in your professional life. But what I really think I took away is the focus. As a dental professional from India, I think it was a very valuable lesson was the focus, because I just knew that I can only speak for Bombay. But when it's an incredibly competitive environment, and if I wasn't doing a good job, I knew that I would be replaced by 10,000 other people who are probably as good as I was, or maybe even better than I was. And I think bringing that focus was such a valuable lesson that I was learning without knowing that I was learning that. And I have to say that I took that grit here to my professional life in Australia. And it just means that everyone, and I know that everyone who works in India and Bombay and all that you learn as an Indian dentist is that that you really hold yourself to very high standards, and it remains as a very core part of your professional ethics. And I really would have to say that that's something that I took away with me quite strongly. And I remember that a couple of years ago, and I just wanted to share this, that a couple of years ago, I remember that I was reading this very interesting article in Harvard Business Review. And I think that's something that all of us should keep in touch with these things is how the article was building cross-cultural relationships in a global workspace. And I think it said something very interesting, that when you work from one country and you move to another country, and at work, sometimes you think and you reflect and you say, it feels different. Something feels different. And it's that it feels different is just a clue. It's not a verdict. And I think that was a very interesting concept that this article was saying, that means that we just have to work on how I can fit into this new environment. And what dentistry had taught me is that if I had the focus and if I had the grit, it feels different, but I can change and adapt to it. So I think that's something that I have to say I took away with me from India for sure.
Thank you so much, Natasha. That was amazing to say that how important focus and grit is in today's competitive world. That's a takeaway for everybody. Now, I would want to ask you that you've been working in India while doing your BDS on patients. So what about the patient expectations? How does it differ across the cultures? and the healthcare systems that you have experienced so far?
It's a really interesting question, and there's lots to think about here, lots to reflect on. Actually, it's nice because it takes me back to my memory lane. But honestly, one big difference I would say from a patient expectations perspective is that what I at least noticed after moving to Australia is how collaborative healthcare feels in Australia. So patients here tend to have a strong health literacy and are really involved in decision making about their care. And look, I'm sure that the professional practice and dental practice is evolving as we're speaking now, even back in India. But I won't speak for all of India, I won't speak for Mumbai, but I felt that in my experience, at least from what I had worked in Mumbai, was that when I arrived here more than a decade ago, I was struck by how readily patients exercise their rights and wanted to be really a big part of their treatment planning. And I know healthcare is such a dynamic world, and I was quite impressed that that there was a voice that was quite heard and was quite regular. And in my current role as a director, for example, and as a hospital executive, I'm often asked to help doctors and teams to talk with families, not who are going through a tough time, and not because I'm supposed to make a decision for them, but only so that I can help them as a family. And I know I come from a place of authority, but I just love that it is so collaborative and it's such a co-designed environment. And I think I felt that it was really good that we do this here in Australia. It's very collaborative, so patient expectations are very respected, and there's always a good outcome. And it's not an outcome that, doctor, you told me this is why I'm doing this. It's not like that. It's more we're doing this together. So yes, we've decided this together, and are you comfortable with that? So I think that was a really interesting difference, and I thought was such a wonderful change from at least from when I was working back in India.
Yeah, it's like you're walking them through the entire journey, yourself explaining to them, that, look, this is what you need to do, or this is what you need to anticipate. And then you talk to them and their family as well, and you make a collaborative decision, right? That's what it is. So I think it's something which can genuinely be, implemented in India as well, because that's something which is, like my dentist said so, and that's why I need to do so. Or maybe I just think so, and that's the reason I want to do so. Like, it's like that in India, isn't it, Manali?
You have to make sure that the patient is a part in the planning that we are doing for him. At every step, whatever we plan for the patient, he should be equally involved in it.
Exactly. And one of the national standards here. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say that one of the national standards here in Australia nationally is partnering with consumers. So I know that we're saying consumers because it's not just the patients, because it's patients, their families, maybe they have a carer, or they have a relative or a visitor. Some people might not have a full family, but might have a close friend who are quite involved in their lives and even their healthcare lives. And I think that's really interesting. It's so integral and it's very well embedded in the healthcare system. So I think I really
yeah.
So that's like a part of the administrative system, which is different over there. That's what you said, right? So for Indian dentists like you, who have thought of going again, abroad, like taking the plunge, like what you have decided to do 10 years back, or maybe 15 years back now, what is the regulation, certification, or what kind of credential do you think should be done in India or maybe anywhere abroad, like you are in Australia, based in Australia? So what are the credentials and the kind of regulation protocols that are important for us to know? And for all those who are kind of aspiring to go abroad and follow your line, like not be in dentistry, but be in hospital administration, what is your advice?
Look, my advice is quite simple, and I've given this advice over the years a few times informally to a lot of people who've reached out to me. Honestly, it really depends on your interest. I know this sounds very diplomatic and very neutral, but it is the truest and the most honest advice I could give anybody. Is it has to depend on your interest. I mean, for example, I did have someone who reached out to me quite recently, and very talented, very skilled dental professional who said, "Oh, I want to move to Australia. Oh, I am moving to Australia. I'm going to be there." And because my husband is an engineer who has a very different pathway, it's very, very different to a healthcare professional. And I spoke to this person for almost 30 minutes and we got nowhere. Because not in that entire conversation, I was not able to drill down to what her interests were. And if your interest is in dentistry, in clinical practice, then you must pursue that. I think that will be a really good outcome. And I think, for example, I had decided 15 years ago, I had set my goal to become a director in this field 15 years ago. I had made that goal, I had written it down in my diary as a goal. And while I was doing my double master, so I focused first on getting experience in this field, doing credential and online courses in safety and quality, patient safety and quality specifically, that are relevant to Australia. So it depends on which country you're looking at. And then it suited my personality, it suited my values and my personal traits. And I felt that and that's why the outcome has been, I can say it's worked out well for me, because I knew exactly what was good for me. And if I tried to replicate or duplicate something that someone else was doing, it might not have worked for me. So I think it's less to look outside, look at yourself, reflect, think about it. Shanti say, like, make a list. These are the things that I'm really good at. And I made that list, and the list was very short back then. That's what at least I felt.
Long for you, Natasha, trust me.
Yeah, so it's one word that I would say, that you stayed rooted. That's what I would say. Like,
that's it.
Yeah, stay rooted.
I couldn't agree more. I stayed rooted. I said, this is what I really want. This is this is where my ethos is. And I pursued credentials specific to that. And that's why I am where I am at the moment. And I'm still learning. So this journey will never stop. And I know that I will continue learning, and I will continue to improve myself, because it can't be all done and dusted anytime. So I think that was really important to me. So my biggest advice would be that wherever you are planning to go, if it's abroad or if you plan to stay in India, if you are interested in something, and you have to be interested in something, because otherwise, what is life there to offer when it comes to a professional life? So I think get those interests in line, and focus only on that. And I think that works really well.
Okay, that sounds perfect. So just to end it, I would like to ask you one belief that you would want our listeners to borrow from your beautiful journey.
That's a really tough one. Look, there's an advice that I would like to tell people, and I feel like I was reflected. I wish I was kinder to myself. I really wish that I had put a huge amount of pressure on myself. And looking back 20 years, I wish I'd been firmer about making a balance, or creating a balance between work and life and family and friends and all of that. I mean, and moving to Australia was the turning point for me, where I genuinely was much kinder to myself, and I made decisions that were more suitable to my life and my family. And I guess another lesson I'd like to share, because I think we talk a lot about the next generation, and I can't believe that I'm not the current generation. I would love to be the most current and the relevant generation, but I'm not.
We already have the Gen Zs and the Gen Alpha, and now the Gen Beta as well. So
yes.
I know when you were that generation, and I know now where you've transitioned to. Yeah,
I guess so. I guess I just have to make peace with the fact that I'm old and I am the older generation, and then I have to give advice to the next generation.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful. Look, it's wonderful, but it's challenging. But I think I'd like to share that I wish the next generation, they don't rush into the next best thing. I think if before you've really finished or given your best of what you're doing now, you don't know. And I see so much talent when I'm interviewing and recruiting, and all the new doctors and dentists and all the professions that I see. There's so much wonderful talent out there, and really good skills. But I feel that they've got it much earlier than I did. So I think I was still thinking, what's happening, and they already know what they're doing, which is fabulous. But I feel with all the distractions today, it can feel like finishing something or reaching a goal is a waste of time, or it's boring, or which is not true at all. And I wish that the next generation really feels that they have to give something a really good shot. Like I really want to do this, and give it the integrity it should get. And I hope they give themselves a chance to see things and appreciate the journey, because it's not always about the outcome. So yeah, that's my key takeaway.
When you told about the journey, we often read that it's not the destination, it's the journey. But however, when we speak about Bharat Dental Show, there's something that me and Manali believe. It's not even the journey. It's whom are you with
in the journey,
in that journey. And we are so, it's so nice to have you here with us, Natasha. And besides you being rooted to me in India, what is it that still keeps you rooted to India?
My family, my friends, no matter where in the world I go, Salony ma'am, who you are to me, what my friends are to me, and what I have learned and who I've become, my formative years were in India. I know that granted that I've spent most of my life, even as a youngster, outside of India. I think what keeps me rooted is the absolutely wonderful tradition, the values, the families, the friends. We should feel incredibly proud to call ourselves Indians. I feel so incredibly proud when I'm here in a multicultural environment. When I work, we celebrate so many festivals in our hospitals where there's people from different parts of the world. And I have to say that the Indian festivals are always the really popular ones. So I feel so incredibly proud that that's what keeps me rooted to India, that I have so much history that I can take with me wherever I go in this world. So yes, that's my true feeling.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Natasha. So everybody here today, if today reminded you that your roots aren't chains and your wings aren't reckless, we have done our job. I would like to thank Dr. Natasha on behalf of Bharat Dental Show, myself, Dr. Manali, and Dr. Salony Mistry, for sharing your beautiful journey and your wisdom. To our listeners, reflect on one root you are grateful for and one wing you're ready to stretch. I would request all of you all to join us in this podcast synergy of Roots and Wings. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. And until we see you again on this platform, not just online, but in person and in India.
See you soon.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the listeners. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time ahead.